Hello, I'm Mark.
Casey.
And I'm Patrick.
And today we're going to talk a little bit about possibly India, and see what's going on there. But first, roll that title.
You're watching the Tesla Life Express!
Patrick, that worked perfectly. It's been the first time for a long time. It worked perfectly.
Cool.
So good to see that. But welcome everyone to the show. Wanted to talk a little bit about this news article that came in about not Giga India per se, but Giga Berlin in support of India. So this article came from Teslarati and talks a little bit about how it's been noted that Giga Berlin is going to be producing some right-hand drive vehicles for the Indian market. And they are going to start to put these into production. What I found really strange here, and I don't know the geopolitical climate between between Giga Shanghai and India, because of course Shanghai to this point seems to be the go-to when they need smaller orders or they need specialty vehicles produced for whatever reason. But in this case, the order was given to Giga Berlin to produce some Model Ys right-hand drives that will be heading over to India in the first shipment of Teslas to India in mass. According to the article, the Indian government has lifted some tariffs, some long-standing tariffs that they've had on foreign-produced vehicles to allow up to 8,000 vehicles to be brought into the country at a reduced tariff. So this allows Tesla to basically test out a market. And I think that's a win. That's a plus for Tesla to take a look at what the Indian market could provide. Is there demand for Tesla vehicles at the price point they currently are at? Is there enough Indian people that would be interested in purchasing an electric vehicle in a market that is just at the beginning of introducing electric vehicles to the population? So there's a lot of unanswered questions that Tesla is going to try to answer with these 8,000 so vehicles that are going to be imported into the country. And it's kind of interesting to see what this test case will work out and see if there actually is a demand for these vehicles. Because, of course, if there is, India is a massive market. It's the third most populated country on Earth. It's going to definitely, you would think, have some demand for Tesla electric vehicles. But I guess this is why they wanted the tariffs reduced, so they could actually see if demand is there.
This is something that I was kind of expecting and not understanding at first. Like, from my understanding that the Indian folks and the Chinese folks don't always get along, and I saw a little bit of this when my wife first came over. Whenever she turned over a product and said "made from China," there was a little bit of a disdain in her voice, like, "Oh, China." I'm all the way around the world in China.
Yeah, that's a real thing with some countries. Obviously, have had some long-standing issues with China and their trade practices or how they treat people or immigrants. There have been some issues where countries do not get along, and there's a few that don't get along with China. And of course, that's difficult in a world where so much of our manufacturing has been shipped off to China for so many everyday goods, outside of like large purchase price like a vehicle. But, everything in your household, everything in a North American's household is basically made in China. It's been offshored over the past decades to China. That may be starting to change, but currently and in the recent past, it certainly was the case.
Yeah. So
I wonder if
Thailand. So you see made in Thailand on the bottom of a lot of products, and there's less of them now because China's taken over.
I wonder if that had anything to do with it, or if it was just Tesla looking at, okay, how are we going to get them there from China, and how do we get them there from Germany? And from Germany, there was better rail or something like that could get them there quicker or cheaper. Or if it was just capacity, because like you said, Mark, the Shanghai factory is their export hub to the world. So that could mean that it's already booked with things that are going to other places. So I don't know. I don't think they care much about what people are going to think about where it was made.
If the politicians that they were arguing with cared, then hopefully that played a part in their considerations. But yeah, you would picture them thinking that everything could be on merit. Like, hey, this is where you can get them the cheapest, the fastest, and the most efficiently into your local streets. But if we get them there super quick, super cheap, and nobody buys them because when they turn it over, it says China, did we actually accomplish anything?
I'll give you one example, Patrick, of something that was absolutely real that happened recently with Tesla. Was the arrival of Model 3 and Model Y to Taiwan. And of course, Giga Shanghai is within a few kilometers of that particular area. But of course, with the geopolitical situation that's happening between China and Taiwan, Taiwanese government wanted nothing to do with anything that's produced in China to be sold in their country. They would not have it. And that is something that, even though they had to ship them further around the world to get to them from Germany, they said it's either Germany or North America, but it's not going to be China.
Yep.
Okay, I could see that one. That there's a long-standing rivalry there. Okay. And Mark, you mentioned India's population, so I looked it up on worldometer.info, and according to this site, at the end of 2023, India took the #1 spot. Their population went up by 11 million, where China's was effectively flat, and so India is now #1 at 1.428 billion, whereas China has 1.425 billion.
Wow. So they are #1 in world population at this point.
Yes, and nobody else is even close to those two.
Yeah, I know Canada's nowhere near there.
Yeah, let's see. Scrolling, looking for Canada. Still scrolling. Oh, there's Canada, number 38.
38.
Yes.
Wow.
Behind those two.
The U.S. 339 million. Let's just call it 340. So yeah, they're both more than a billion above #3.
More than a billion. So we got our work cut out for us. Yeah, exactly.
Or not. This is fine. I don't need a billion more people waiting in line for a supercharger.
Now, the other thing that's going on in China, another thing going on in India is Tesla is sending some teams in outside of people looking to sell vehicles. Casey, did you see about what this was about? Do you know what they're looking for?
That one I didn't see. I did see, though, that folks were complaining about the amount of cars, that it wasn't enough for a fair shake to figure out the demand levers. And I kind of see that, but at the same time, now you can actually get a few, and then hopefully have some really good statisticians to figure this out, because even though it isn't a lot of cars, that you can at least see something if you've got some people who know how to read actuarial tables.
That's obviously Tesla would like more than 8,000 vehicles. They'd like a lot more. But of course, this is interesting that they were able to get a concession from the Indian government at all, because the delay of Tesla vehicles introduction into India was because of this import tariff. And that's been going on for, it's been close to 2 years now, where they've been bickering back and forth over these import duty fees. And it looks like there's finally come up with a solution to at least allow a small amount of vehicles in to see what the demand would be for it. The other team that Tesla has that will be entering India later this month, apparently, is a group that is sourced with, they're tasked with looking for a particular manufacturing site that, if Tesla is successful in the number of vehicles they believe they can sell in the country, where could we build a manufacturing plant in what area of India would best facilitate what we're trying to do. So they are tasked with finding logistics, actual enough land for sale in a certain region, and of course connection to logistics, connection to manufacturers, because of course Tesla likes to bring in manufacturers from the local area as much as they can. To make the vehicle easy to source and produce within a given country, and this is what they are going to be looking for. And again, it's kind of, it's work that you can do at any point, but now that they've actually been able to sell some cars, they're willing to go that extra mile and start to look at what steps would be required if we're actually going to set up a manufacturing facility. What are we going to do? So that certainly makes sense. That would be the next step, because you've got to have all those ducks in a row if you want to be successful in moving forward.
Yep.
So that's interesting. Again, 8,000 cars, not a great deal, but it is somewhat of a win to get a concession out of India at all, because the Indian import market has always been ironclad. They've stopped all sorts of manufacturers from debuting products in India unless they set up a manufacturing plant first and produce those items in country. And this is a concession that they've made to Tesla that they have not made to anyone else. Kind of like the first time that China allowed a firm, 100% of that firm, to own that entity within inside of China. Never had been done before Tesla. So it's another first for Tesla in the greater Asian world. So it's going to be interesting to see.
It is interesting that Tesla's able to get away with that. I mean, they stick to their guns. They don't just say, oh, those are the rules. They say, here's the reason why we want to do it differently, and they stick to their guns. And with this 8,000 vehicles, is that the number you said, Mark? 8,000? Yep. Yeah, so that will give them a pretty good sample of how fast do those sell. If they're still setting on them 60 days later, then they're going to know there's not that much demand for vehicles at that price point in India. If they all sell out in a week and they have 10,000 more people that are on the list and would have bought one but can't get to it, then they have so this will be a good sample size, even if it's not that many vehicles. It'll tell them
even if it is kind of small.
Yeah.
And of course, the big question is if they are successful, if they believe the market actually is there based on the sales that they have, the model next, the $25,000 US car, certainly could be even a bigger hit in India based on income levels in the country as a whole. Obviously, there are well-to-do people in every country, and India, of course, with the large population, would have a substantial amount of those well-to-do people that could afford these type of vehicles. But if you can lower the entry point, of course, you're going to open that up to many more people. And you're going to need that if you're going to start manufacturing vehicles in a country where the manufacturing plant certainly would be able to, at minimum 200,000, and probably Tesla would be wanting to start at 500,000 and get to 1 million if we can look at any of the other plants as examples.
Yeah. I suspect we're going to see in this trial run, we'll see a lot of like base, standard range, and then a couple of performances just to kind of gauge how they do and what's out there. And then once they have the data, they'll fill it in with stuff in the middle, like the long ranges, and we'll see.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, with the test, it'll be interesting to see if they do sell that amount of vehicles, will they banter the Indian government about, come on, give us another 8,000 to let us in again? We've already signed the lease deal. We are purchasing land. We are going to build the plant, but you got to help us in the meantime. It does take 12 months or 14 months to build a plant. Help us out in the meantime. Reduce some tariffs again so we can sell some more Ys or 3s. And of course, the other interesting thing is that the Y was chosen because, of course, its ability to be just a bit higher, a little bit more ground clearance, because a number of Indian road infrastructure, although there are many good roads in India, obviously, but they wanted to have a vehicle that was a little bit more SUV-ish, to be off the road a little bit higher to protect from bumps and I guess cracks in the road if these vehicles should be driven in non-urban centers. They want as much clearance as they could get.
Mm-hmm.
At least until they know where the customers are.
Exactly. And with that, I think we will wrap this particular story up on Tesla Life Express. And of course, you can follow us throughout the week. Make sure you're subscribed. Press that thumbs up. Helps us out. Gets us in front of new eyeballs. We would really appreciate that. And with that, we will wrap and get together with you next time on the Tesla Life.
Stay positive. Test negative.